is the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
Good Wednesday morning, Sam.
Hump day.
Forgot what day it was for a second here. Wednesday, hump day. Good morning to all of you sports fans. Good morning to all of you Dab Nation folk out there and everybody else. It's a lot of wonderful dabby things happening here on the BG Sports Show.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It is. It really is. And we have a lot of things to get to today. A little bit of change in programming. First call to action is there will be no Periscope today, unfortunately. We are victimized of the poor Wi-Fi connections here at the studio that we use, and unfortunately no iPad or iPhone or any mobile device can connect to the Wi-Fi. Thankfully, we at least were able to hotwire in for our laptops for internet access.
Yeah, we were.
So we're running purely off of that. Sam has 20 hamsters on a generator keeping his Wi-Fi connection going for him. So aside from that, though, we will still be here, so you can talk to us and listen to us. If you actually want to interact with us, though, you have to find us on social media, which Sam will tell you about in a second. But you can listen to us. This is our last week of 5 days a week, so you can get us today and tomorrow. We will have no show on Friday. You can listen to us from 7 to 8 a.m. Central live, usually on Periscope as well, but you can get us here on Spreaker. Then you can also get us on Sports Radio America from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time, and also on demand on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, and on Podbean as well.
And like Baxter said, you can find us on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram at the BG Sports Show, and you can find us on Twitter at BG Sports Show. He is at Baxter Colbert, and if you have any questions during the show at all, any football questions, fantasy football questions, general sports questions, or if you just want to say hi, shoot me a message on Twitter or shoot me a link at Samuel_Wallace2.
I love it. Now, Sam.
Yeah.
You enjoy Christmas, don't you?
I do, but not as much when it's still like 50 degrees outside in December.
Right? I was listening to NPR yesterday. That makes me feel how old I am.
I was gonna say.
I know. I feel like my grandparents listening to NPR and fresh air. No, I was listening to NPR last night on my drive home because there was literally nothing else good on the radio.
It's true.
So, and they had some expert who had 43 titles talking about the weather. I'm like, just say he knows about the weather. You don't need to.
He's the weatherman. That's
exactly.
That's all the credentials I need.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, he gets paid a lot of money to be wrong every day. Perfect.
There we
Got
go.
it. Okay. And they were talking about, this might be one of the warmest winters possible because of El Nino and blah, 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 blah. So I don't know if it's going to snow or not. It's rainy. We're definitely at the first stage of it where it's rainy. And
it's
then
cooling
it
off
transition
finally.
into. But I don't know. It's December 16th, Sam, and it's only snowed like once-ish. It was one hardish snow.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a few inches.
You had to shovel.
Yeah, so I mean that counts. Did you get paid for that?
I did.
Are you doing the shoveling again? Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Very nice. Well, when it comes to Christmas time, obviously snow is very important.
Yep.
But also wearing ugly sweaters is also a very big deal. But on top of that, when you have an ugly sweater that has a Santa on it that's also dabbing, is a totally different thing. Let's just say that Cam Newton continues to take his level of popularity in the Carolina regions, that Charlotte area, to an entirely new height.
Absolutely.
As we see just recently of him going out and helping out a bunch of kids at the Metro School and a few other places around Charlotte in terms of giving out cookies and just helping spread holiday cheer as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the big talking point that a lot of folks are saying is that he wore a ugly Christmas sweater with a dabbing Santa on it, which I think immediately wins the best Christmas sweater I've seen in a long time.
Do you know where he got that sweater?
I don't. Do you?
2 Chainz.
Oh my God! Of course he did.
As sold by the rapper 2 Chainz, of course.
Where is that in the article? Did I miss that? Oh, there it is. As sold by the rapper 2 Chainz when the letter came out. I want to get after that.
Well, shoot 2 Chainz a message.
I'm gonna have to hit him up.
Man,
be like, hey,
I want
2
one of them.
Chainz.
I want one of them.
Yeah.
Dabbing sweaters.
Let's see. The former came out in an ugly Christmas sweater featuring Santa dabbing, sold by the rapper 2 Chainz, while the latter came in the form of, an actual foxtail, a red foxtail. Oh, well, that's interesting.
He's got a foxtail on.
Good for him. Anyway, so aside from that, though, I think it's things like this that continue to make folks fall in love with Cam Newton. We've already heard the fact that, yes, it's completely irrelevant at this point that the season that Carolina's 13-0. Great for them.
People seem to not even care anymore.
They're undefeated. That's good for them. But as I was listening on the radio this morning on my drive-in on ESPN.
Was it NPR this morning?
It was not. I did tune in for NPR for a moment, but they didn't have any sports on this morning, so I had to switch over to ESPN.
All right.
Heard those guys do good work, so I figured I'd listen to them. So Mike and Mike were talking about at this point, it's great and all that if you're undefeated, but at the end of the day, if you don't come away with a Super Bowl victory, what good is your entire season? I mean, we've seen people like Green Bay finish 10-6 and win a Super Bowl. I mean, Seattle, I think, was a 9 or a 10-win team when they went to the Super Bowl and won as well.
And when the Packers finished 15-1, it was
they lost their first game.
Yeah, it's like
the record doesn't really matter. It's just as long as you're in the playoffs and then what you do once you're there. Like, yes, that's great if they can go on and beat the 70 whatever Dolphins record and blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, if Cam Newton and company don't walk away with the Super Bowl, their season's kind of a failure.
It's true. Now that you mention it, I have noticed kind of a shift in the perception of Carolina. It's fun when a team is undefeated for as long as Carolina has been, a la Golden State Warriors, something like that. But when you get to a certain point, I feel like when you get to double-digit wins and you're undefeated, that 10, 11, 12, now you're starting to think, all right, if you don't go all the way, nobody cares.
No, and I think so. Once they got over that probably 8 or 9 win threshold. Once you get, like you said, once you got into like that 10, as soon as they hit 10, I'm like, all right, they're in the playoffs no matter what, barring some ridiculous A, collapse, B, everybody else in the NFC remembers how to play football.
And we all know Atlanta can't play football.
Exactly. So that was a classic case of Atlanta, just the team as a whole being way overhyped and then kind of crashing and burning. But I think aside from the fact, though, it's great that Cam Newton is stepping outside of the football world and taking time to give back to his community because football in Carolina and in Charlotte actually means something again. Mm-hmm. Not that it hasn't in the last few years, but this year especially, the Panthers are winning, and I'm sure this is true for any market when a team is playing well. Your team's playing well, you're going to have your starting quarterback who's playing fairly well also step up, gotten the headlines, had some fun. And all the headlines I continue to see about Carolina is that they're just having the most fun out of everybody in the NFL.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of things off the field, which is really cool. They're not getting wrapped up totally in the game.
Exactly. And obviously they do want to focus on that because that is their job. That's what they're going to be doing. But
that's what they get paid to do.
Exactly. That's why they play the game. But if they can step off the field for a little bit, though, like we saw here with Cam Newton the other night, I think that's a fantastic thing for them to do. And it gives back to the community and proves, hey, we're real people.
Yep.
Because so many times you hear from NFL athletes of, I'd rather go sit in my mansion with all my women and my money and 2 Chainz and whoever else and just do that. Whatever, screw the community. I don't care. But you get guys like Cam Newton who are being perceived as thugs, apparently, because that's what you do when you dance and do all that crap is you're considered a thug. So
just because he's black.
Honestly,
I'll say
ridiculous. Thank you. No, I'm glad you did because we had that whole talk about Travis Kelce and Cam Newton last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I just think it's ridiculous. And I understand where that mom was coming from, but at the same time,
give it a rest.
Give it a rest, lady. Is she still freaking out about this? Probably. She'd be like, look at him being all thug with that Christmas sweater.
Does anybody care?
No, not at all. Just your daughter's fine.
He's got a great personality. He's great with fans. He's great with kids. He's awesome.
I don't see anything that he's doing as a bad thing, honestly.
Nope.
So just as an overall thing with Cam Newton as a whole, 2 questions for you, Sam. Number 1, would you wear that sweater?
Would I wear that sweater? It depends on where I was going.
You're going to a Christmas party. You're going to a function for a Christmas party.
The thing is, I would definitely wear that sweater. I'm curious, though, to know if the people I'm with would understand or get it.
That's also true. Yes, that's my first. That's what you got to think of the context of the people around you. Because if you walk in with something like, "What's wrong with Santa?" Like, why is it? Because if you don't know the move, it's like Santa, like almost looking like he's ashamed because his hands
he's covering
in front of his face and his other arms out to the side. It's like, was he running away?
Yeah,
what's the deal with Santa? But
it's subtle, but it's cool.
It is, yeah. No, I had to look at it, and I mean, as soon as I understood what it was, I was like, "Oh, Cam,
well played, 2 Chainz.
Well played, 2 Chainz, and well played, Cam." And apparently, that red tail, foxtail, hanging off the backside of him too. So that's my first question for you, Sam. So I'd wear it also.
All right, good.
Second thing though is, do you want to see more community involvement from NFL players?
Oh my goodness, yes, absolutely. I think the community involvement really that we see currently in the NFL stems a lot from big name players, from quarterbacks, from big wide receivers or running backs. Yeah, you would really like to see more. I don't want to say no name players, but players that you normally don't know a lot of unless you're a big fan of them. Mm-hmm. Offensive linemen, backup quarterbacks, bench guys. Those guys got plenty of money. Those guys got a lot of money that they can throw around.
What is it? The minimum wage, quote unquote, is like $500,000 in the NFL.
Something like that. There's a lot of great work that a lot of guys could do, and I get it. It's not for everybody, but I really would like to see a lot more NFL players step up into their community, and maybe they are. Maybe we just don't know about it, and I would be totally wrong. So I hope I am. But the players that seem to get the most recognition for them are, players like Cam Newton, Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago would always make trips to the Children's Hospital in
I was
Seattle.
going to say, does he still do that? I don't know if he does or not, but I forget, was it like every Wednesday or something like that? He went to Children's Hospital up in Seattle every single day every week.
Yeah,
apparently.
like once a week for a couple hours would like check out the floor, see the kids, stuff like that. And that stuff is what gets the big recognition.
Exactly.
So,
and is he doing it to help his overall image? Yeah, maybe a
absolutely.
smidge. But at the same time, though, as we hear so many of these guys that have good hearts, like Cam and Russell Wilson, football's just a game.
Yep.
Like that's the end of the day. Is like it's just a game. I mean, I don't know if you heard about what LeBron James did last night.
Yeah, I saw that
Special Olympics kid. He's like,
that was awesome.
Basketball is like, this is way more than a game. He's like, you see somebody like him who overcame what he did.
Yep.
It's like that. That's why we do what we do. So
reasons why we love sports.
Exactly. I mean, yes, we love the drama. We love all the craziness that go along with that. But at the end of the day, just a game, guys. Same thing for my fantasy football team. It's just a game.
I'm trying to tell myself that. I'm
Take
trying.
A step away. I know. I got to review my team as well. So we're going to go to a break. But when we come back, Sam and I are going to break down what's going on with the college football playoff and offer our predictions for the 4 teams that have made it into the Final Four. But before we do that, we'd like to take a minute to thank one of the sponsors of the BG Sports Show. That is Student Debt Center. You can call them today to have your student loan payments reduced by calling 855-401-3508.
Again, that number is 855-401-3508. Back with more after the break.
Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
A reminder for all of you social media lovers out there that you can go on to Facebook and give the BG Sports Show a like. Go and find the BG Sports Show on Facebook. Not to be we are like the Ohio State. It's the BG Sports Show.
Yeah, we are.
And then on Twitter, you can follow us at BG Sports Show and Instagram at BG Sports Show as well.
And you can always find us on Twitter. We are at Baxter Colbert and at Samuel_Wallace2.
Oh, yeah. We posting some dabbing photos later.
Yeah,
I feel like we need like a BG Sports Show, like a sweater where you're dabbing one way, I'm dabbing the other, and get that on an ugly sweater.
Maybe 2 Chainz can get it done for us.
2 Chainz, if you're listening, hit us up, please.
If you're listening, let us know.
Seriously though, but
shoot us a message on Twitter.
Unless somebody can overnight it to me, which I doubt it, I would love some sort of a dab ugly Christmas sweater. I've got a Christmas party I'm going to tomorrow night. I know it's a little bit of a rush, but
what kind of Christmas party are you going to? Work?
No, just one with a few gatherings of folks. My wife is hosting a small Christmas party, so she's like, "We're going to have a party." I'm like, "Okie dokie."
Yes, honey.
So I'm going to show up in my biggest and brightest smile and give the people what they want.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. You'll get there one day, Sam.
Can't wait.
All right, college football, Sam.
Yeah.
So we already know who the top 4 teams are that made the playoffs. It's Clemson, Alabama, Michigan State, and Oklahoma. So I'm going to just spend just a little bit of time on this because there's other things in college football that I want to get to, which I feel like will be far more interesting.
I think it will be.
I don't feel like we really need to spend a ton of time on this, especially Alabama, Michigan State. No offense, Michigan State fans, but you guys are going to get blown out of the building. So I don't know if you'd even bother wasting the money going to the Cotton Bowl. I mean, realistically, does Michigan State have a chance?
I think just because if any team, you know what? I'll even say if any team's going to get lucky enough to beat Alabama, it's going to be Michigan State.
Which annoys me.
Which is super annoying coming from a Big Ten fan of the Badgers. But if there's any team that just kind of lives under that star of, hey, if anything that can happen will, they're kind of like the Seattle Seahawks of college football.
Oof.
I'll say it.
And I'll be honest. I mean, I like Russell Wilson more now, but I hate Connor Cook. He's so annoying. I was watching the Big Ten title game with a broadcast friend of mine while we were on the road down in Jacksonville. Yeah. And the words he was using to describe Connor Cook, because he's been in the industry for 20, 30 years. And I'm like, hey.
So as long as we've been around.
Basically. And I was and I asked him, all right, Jim, what do you think of Connor Cook? And some of the words he used to describe him, he's like, you just,
Just no.
I can't say some of the words he used, but I just was like, oh. And I'm like, I understand. Like, his personality, the way he kind of comes off, and I was like, he's just not a good quarterback. Like, just don't like
again,
him.
It's Michigan State.
Exactly.
So they live with Murphy's Law. It's like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Exactly. I would rather if I had to pick the lesser of 2 Michigans, I would choose Michigan, not Michigan State. I would be more willing to get behind Michigan being there than I would Michigan State. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because the Badgers see Michigan State more.
Yeah.
And we just have more hated rivalries, at least in my opinion. Maybe Badger fans out there are freaking out. They're like, have you not known about the Wolverine? Whatever. Like,
I just don't like Jim Harbaugh.
I don't mind him. I like his khakis. Did you see the bus, the Michigan bus with his khakis and his play sheet? I'm like, yes.
He was even in oh man, my parents and I laugh about this sometimes. Jim Harbaugh was in a commercial a couple years ago for like Dockers Stain Defender pants or whatever, and it's weird because he comes in, Jim Harbaugh comes back into his house with his wife and his daughter was there, and he's wearing these different pants now because they're not.
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
There's other khakis that he always his iconic pants, and he walks out of the room and the little girl's like, "Mommy, who's that man?" And she's like, "That's your dad, honey." And it was a hilarious pun.
That is super funny.
But, yeah.
That is funny. No, I don't mind Harbaugh, but did you hear too? I know we're getting super sidetracked in college football though, but
that's okay.
When Michigan played Ohio State, khakis were banned at Ohio State for the week of the ball game.
Yeah, they were.
Wow,
that's great. I love when teams do that. I mean, that's almost like
the entire school was on a no khaki law.
That was when the city. That was when the city of San Francisco 2 years ago banned the song "Royals" when they were playing the Kansas City Royals in the World Series.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Can you legally do that though?
I think so.
I think you can put out a statement saying nobody do that. But either way, yeah, I know you're right. I'm hoping Derrick Henry proves why he's the Heisman Trophy winner though, and just stomps on Michigan State.
If they feed him the ball 45 times, I think anybody can stop.
I think
Michigan
you can go
State.
450 for 5 touchdowns, on 10 carries. I like it.
10? Is that even possible?
Is that mathematically possible?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
I think so.
Doesn't matter.
You need at least 4 carries of 100 yards or more. So you give them 10 carries. I mean, assuming they start at the goal line every time. I'm sure somebody mathematically will work it out on Twitter and prove me
Somebody's
wrong. Corey Plath will find a way and make me look foolish like he always does. He fact checks me hard on Twitter after every show, and I'm like, would you stop?
Hey, he's keeping us honest.
He is. All right, so then Oklahoma, Clemson. I think Clemson's definitely the better football team, but Oklahoma, I think, is proving that the Big 12 is actually semi-decent this year. I don't want to say that they're for sure, but I also saw the troubles that UNC gave Clemson in their ACC title game. So part of me does want to leave the door open for Oklahoma to win this game.
Yeah, I understand that. I think Oklahoma could pull off an upset, but I actually think the Oklahoma-Clemson game is going to be a better football game than the Alabama-Michigan State game.
I agree, because I think it's either going to be some stupid finish where Michigan State wins or Alabama steamrolls them. But then, like you mentioned, I think Oklahoma-Clemson is going to be a much more contested ball game.
And Clemson's defense isn't great, and Oklahoma has shown that they can give up chunks of yardage as well. So, I mean, that game could be 45-42 with, like, over 1,000 yards of offense.
No kidding, especially with how bad Big 12 defenses traditionally are.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, are you taking Clemson then in this ball game?
I'm going to take Clemson, and I'm going to take Alabama.
Okay, yeah, that's who I have as well. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Michigan State, and people.
It's not happening.
And this is always the hard part about it too. And people love to get on me about this especially when it comes to NCAA time. And they're always like, "You got to support the conference, support the Big Ten, support the Big Ten." After like the Badgers lose or something, I'm like, no.
Why?
Why do I need to support the entire conference? Like, yes, I support the conference, but I'm not going to go out of my way to cheer for Ohio State if they're still in the tournament and Wisconsin gets knocked out 3 rounds earlier. I'm just not.
I mean, yeah, I get that to a point, from different sporting perspectives. I mean, sometimes people think, well, if your team doesn't win, the playoffs or win the Super Bowl, you at least got to go like NFC or AFC. And I'm like, all right, that's way too big. Like,
absolutely. I mean, when it was New England, Seattle, I wasn't like, hey, I'm NFC, go, woo. I was like, no, go Patriots.
Yeah, heck yeah, go Patriots for sure.
Stupid Seahawks. Like, even if Green Bay and Seattle wouldn't have been in the Super Bowl, and it would have been New England against literally anybody else, it still probably would have cheered for New England. I don't mind New England.
I don't either.
And people are going to probably get on us for that too. Be like, oh, Patriots.
I'll go on the record of saying they're probably my second favorite football team.
Yeah, I enjoy watching Patriots football.
I do too.
I thoroughly do.
But
all right.
anyways,
so one of the other things I want to talk about in college football, Sam, and maybe you've picked up on this over the years, it feels like every year I've got 2 things. Number one, literally anybody can get into a bowl game.
Oh, yeah, I totally
Literally
agree.
anybody.
It's stupid.
All
ridiculous.
you have to do is win 6 games.
Not even conference games.
No, you just have to win 6 football games out of the 13 that they play?
12 or 13, yeah.
So that's half your season. So that's okay, sure, mathematically. But the fact that they continue to add more games and more games and more games
more
bowl games.
There we go.
Is basically putting the fact, and I get it, they only have 4 teams in the playoffs in a Division I level. So until they actually make it bigger and more worthwhile, you got to give the other Division I programs something to play for.
I mean, in the college football playoff program will start to grow and develop as the years go by.
It will. So. Will we ever get to like a 16 or a 32 team? Probably not. I think 8 is a healthy number.
I think that just gets to be too much then for college. For college kids. I mean, yeah, they're young men, but they're still very young in the sense of it gets to be a long season for them then.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you on that one. So I think it's a little ridiculous in that regards that I think the standards need to be a little higher. Mm-hmm. I think if you were to market it like an 8-win, 7, I think an 8-win season would get you into a bowl game. I think is much more acceptable.
I think 8 wins for sure because then you finish 8-4, 8-3, something like that. All right, you had a good season.
Exactly. It's not like you go 6-6 and like we made it to a bowl game. It's like stop.
It's like we made it to the RL Carriers Pinstripe Bowl.
Toilet bowl. Like come on, like you're so much better than that.
And I totally understand. It's all about the money.
Always about the money.
In college football, unless there are some massive revamping changes, they are never going to start cutting bowl games.
No, and like you said, everybody and their mother sponsors a bowl game nowadays. So
anybody with like $500,000, like not to say only $500,000, but any company can be like, yeah, we'll sponsor a bowl game at some high school stadium in Texas for any team that gets 5 wins.
Sure,
like woo, cool,
and then we'll get lots of money.
Yeah,
okay, cool. So I just want to look at some of the names of these bowls fast because as you mentioned, Sam, the names get a little ridiculous. Especially because you have to keep adding bowl games. You got to keep finding sponsors. You got to keep making trophies, making crazy whatever. So I get it. It keeps college football relevant and continues to pile up a lot of money for the programs,
sure.
blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
So just some of the names that jump off to me. The Royal Purple Las Vegas Bowl, the Raycon Media Camellia Bowl, the Cure Bowl, RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl, as you mentioned. Yeah. Miami Beach, that's fine. Famous Idaho Potato Bowl, that's been around for a while. The Marmot Boca Raton Bowl.
What?
The San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl.
Oh, it's the Poinsettia Bowl. I just forgot that it has a stupid long name.
Yeah, the GoDaddy Bowl.
Yeah, there we go.
Popeyes Bahamas.
Is Danica Patrick going to be there?
I hope so.
So do I.
Hawaii Bowl. St. Petersburg Bowl. Hyundai Sun Bowl. Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl.
I feel like, Cotton Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl. Those are like the big 4.
Seriously?
You have the BCS National Title Game. And then So I think you could literally turn the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl, and the Cotton Bowl into like your Final Four games with your top 8 teams. Come up with just different names for like the playoff, like the Final Four games. But then, yeah, I don't know.
Can I just say I'm super excited for the Battle Frog Fiesta Bowl? It's just an awesome name.
Who's playing?
It's Notre Dame, Ohio State. So that'll be a good game.
The Battle Frog.
Battle Frog. That's one word. Battle Frog Fiesta Bowl.
I'm like, where'd Battle Frog come from?
I don't know.
Okay.
The Motel 6 Cactus Bowl.
We'll leave the light on for
exactly. You. Thank you. Tax Slayer Bowl. That just sounds bloody.
Yep. I've heard that one.
The Belk Bowl. Birmingham Bowl. Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl. It's like, come on. And I'm just thinking about this from a broadcaster's perspective, too, because you have sign-ons and sign-offs and sign-ons. Like, we'll be back with more from the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl in Nissan Stadium. It's Texas A&M 34, Louisville 17. I'm like, and breathe. It's
and
like,
cut.
Come on. And it's like, that's just way too long. Like, we're at the Belk Bowl. Okay, cool. We're at, the Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina for the Belk Bowl. Back after
granddaddy
this.
of them all.
Exactly.
The Rose Bowl.
The Rose Bowl. I love that quote. And then, the national championship game, it's the Rose Bowl presented by Northwestern Mutual. And
the Rose Bowl's not presented by Vizio anymore?
No. Northwestern Mutual.
Oh, no.
And then the All-State Sugar Bowl. At least that's
All-State
decent.
Sugar Bowl. Yep.
Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl. I feel like that contradicts a little bit. It's like Buffalo Wild Wings, but they're in Florida, so suddenly we're in Florida, so citrus.
Oh, by the way.
Citrus.
In Pasadena. Come on, it's always by Vizio.
Exactly. The College Football Playoff National Championship presented by AT&T.
That's fine.
That's fine, I guess. So
I'm surprised, Pepsi or Mountain Dew doesn't have a bowl yet.
Where are those guys? Nike or Adidas? That makes sense. They probably don't want to get completely cap tied to one. Be like, look at Nike's sponsors, and then I'm sure that's a whole thing. But who's Belk? What's?
I'm surprised there's no
the Lockheed Martin Armed Force Bowl.
Nice.
The Quick Lane Bowl.
The Budweiser Bowl. Come on.
But probably you don't want to have a beer sponsor of college kids. You don't promote underage drinking, Sam. Think of the kids.
It doesn't happen. It's not a thing.
I've never drank a beer before I was 20, 21, 22 maybe even. I waited an extra year just to be a good guy.
Just to prove a point.
Absolutely. All right, Sam. Well, we're going to go to a break, but when we come back, I'm curious to know your thoughts, Sam, about what you think Andrew Luck and Andy Dalton and other young up-and-coming quarterbacks are going to do with the rest of their careers. Will they go dabbing through the snow, Sam, or will they do things relevant with their career? We'll find out and talk about that when we come back. But first, a word from one of our sponsors. That would be Student Debt Center. Take a moment today and call them by calling 855-401-3508. And you can call them to get your student loans reduced by giving them a call today.
Again, that number is 855-401-3508. Back with more after the break.
Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, a.k.a. the best dance party around. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
Welcome back, Sam. How you doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Did you know, Sam, that you can listen to the BG Sports Show Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, live on Spreaker and on Periscope?
Usually Periscope.
Usually Periscope, except not today because
internet. Because reasons.
Because people are mean and cruel to us.
But did you also know that we're broadcasted from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time
Really?
on sportsradioamerica.com?
What?
Live 365 and tune in.
Holy cow.
You should check it out.
I think we're on demand, too, on iHeartRadio and iTunes and a few other places like that, too.
And Podbean.
Shoot, I love Podbean. It's just a fun word to say. Podbean. If you can pop it. Podbean. Anyway, so Sam, I'm curious. I have a few questions for you in regards to the NFL world. Do you have a moment? Do you have a moment for me to ask you a few
several
questions?
moments.
Oh, good. I'm so glad I caught you at a good time. So, when it comes to the NFL, all we ever hear about nowadays is what's the person's legacy? What's the person's legacy? We hear about Tom Brady, in his 4 Super Bowls. Peyton Manning's only won 1. He's the lesser of the Manning brothers, which is BS. But on paper, what are you going to do?
It's true.
But I think it's time to start switching the conversation over from the greats now and trying to figure out who the new greats are going to be.
Pass the
Because
torch.
you hear guys like Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, those guys now, even Andy Dalton's like, all right, they've been around for a few years, but they're not at that level yet that we know exactly what their legacy is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious if we can walk through a few of the quarterbacks that are up-and-comers at the moment and try to decipher maybe a little bit about who we think they're going to be
Sure.
long-term. So the big guy that I want to talk about is Andrew Luck.
Ooh, all right.
So-
Mr. Lacerated Kidney himself.
Exactly. So assuming he retires, assuming he returns from his laceration and everything else that caused him bodily harm, and he plays probably another 7 years, I'm assuming, because he's only been in the league, 3 years, I think, something of that nature.
Is he in his, he's his third, no, fourth.
Was that English?
Is he in his third year? I think he's in his fourth.
Okay.
Was he in the same class as Russell Wilson?
Yeah, because I think Luck was the number 1 pick in that
Yeah,
draft.
fourth year.
Okay, so he's in his 4th year.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't seen him do a ton so far in playoffs or overall. He's got a great arm. We've seen Indianapolis try to build around him, but the thing that quarterbacks live and die by in the NFL is if they win a Super Bowl, what their legacy is. I mean, and I understand Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl, but he still did go to one, and he had billions of other records and everything else that he set.
Billions and billions.
Exactly. So when it comes to Andrew Luck,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think is going to be his lasting legacy? Will he ever win a Super Bowl? Will he be the type of guy that we will say, oh, he is better than Aaron Rodgers, better than Tom Brady? He, kind of like what we're hearing from Brady and Manning and stuff, replacing the Steve Youngs, the Montanas, those guys.
I think for Andrew Luck to be successful, Indianapolis needs an effective ground game because, quite frankly, signing the elderly, fast-aging Frank Gore was not the greatest move on their part. Obviously, they had no idea that Luck was going to break his ribs, lacerate his kidneys, or whatever else has happened to him at all this season.
Kind of ran out of luck on that one. Sorry.
Did you see that Luck beard commercial?
Which one?
I don't know. One of them. Like, luck is in the air.
Oh, yeah. Like, yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
But I think T.Y. Hilton is a fantastic vertical wide receiver.
Yeah.
We've seen him have flashes of phenomenal games. I don't even know who else is over there right now. Dante Moncrief.
Andre Johnson's on the team last time I checked.
Yeah, Andre Johnson
Some
again.
old
But
guy.
they're getting pretty old, and I know they kind of, I don't want to say sold out for this year, but when they brought in Frank Gore, and they're like, all right, they brought in Andre Johnson. This is going to be the year that Pagano was like, all right, here we go. We're going to bring in some veterans who know what they're doing, who can fit well into our system, and we're going to make a push. Because these guys don't have a whole lot of years left.
It's true.
That all kind of fell apart once Luck went down.
I agree.
They need to start, I don't want to say rebuild, because that's such a cliche way of saying we're not good right now, but we're going to be good later. But they need a ground game, and probably a better tight end. But other than that, I mean, they have wide receivers. Their defense isn't bad. Their offensive line is solid.
So do they win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years?
I say they at least get to one.
Okay.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't see the Patriots run continuing for too much longer. I know Brady said he's going to play till he drops, but I think one day
That could be one bad hit from J.J. Watt.
I was just going to say, I think somebody's going to drop him, and he's going to wake up and be like, yep, I'm good.
Wake up the next morning and be like, about that time. Now, I agree with you to an extent in terms of Andrew Luck, but I just feel like with Andrew Luck and his situation in Indianapolis, and I know Indianapolis would never trade him, they'd never cut him, they'd never do any of that stuff because they first overall pick. He's not a bust by any means.
No, not at all.
It's just the supporting cast around him.
Exactly.
And right now, I feel like unless Indianapolis gets a massive influx of talented players, especially on defense, because Colts realistically defensive-wise, have struggled. And I know
Yeah.
they've had some injuries, etc. But I have a hard time getting on board with Indianapolis even winning a Super Bowl while Luck is there overall, let alone making it to one.
Yeah, I don't know if he's good enough in the sense that he can take kind of a ragtag group around him and make them better.
See, I don't think he is.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have that Aaron Rodgers quality of just, look, I can pick defenses apart, so as long as you get to the spot where you're supposed to be, I will get you the ball.
Exactly. I think we've seen great moments from him. We've seen him be
Yeah.
a leader early on, but like you mentioned, he doesn't have that Rodgers or that Brady mentality where he's like, look, give me Joe off the road. We'll still go out and win 20 games.
As long
you
as
know?
as long as Joe can catch, I'll put the ball there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know. So moving away from Andrew Luck, then, another big guy that we've been talking about is Russell Wilson. He's already got one Super Bowl ring. He's also been to 2 Super Bowls overall now.
Yeah.
We assume if Seattle keeps most of the band together for even the next 5 years, that they'll probably get to at least maybe another 2 at the most. Super
Absolutely.
Bowls.
I'd say that's 2 minimum.
Exactly.
They are like the cream of the NFC right now,
It's
regardless
true.
of what anybody says.
No, and I think people in Arizona honestly realize that. If you wake up in Arizona saying, well, we're the better team, well, yes, but
On paper.
on paper. But
Yeah.
realistically, though, Seattle's a much better team.
When push comes to shove
Overall.
and titles need to be won, Seattle's the better playoff
Yes,
team.
I'm putting my chips on Seattle to
Yep.
win. So with Russell Wilson, let's say he ends his career with 3 Super Bowl victories, of
And
maybe,
5 appearances.
yeah, if he does something like that. I mean, Brady's got 4 and 6 or 4 and 7.
4 and 6,
I think
something like that.
Yeah, he's got 4 and 6. I'm pretty sure because he lost to the Giants both times.
Yeah.
Other than that, he hasn't lost in the Super Bowl.
Tom Coughlin's a Patriot killer.
Love it. So Russell Wilson, I guess you can look longevity-wise. I mean, I'm assuming he's a Hall of Famer if he keeps up his everything.
I mean, it's so easy to say that right now over the last 4 weeks when he's thrown 16 touchdowns without throwing a pick, but he's been playing uncharacteristic Russell
True.
Wilson football in the sense that he's staying in the pocket.
Yep.
And again, he's taking wide receivers that, normally I wouldn't say Doug Baldwin is not a great wide receiver. Tyler
He's
Lockett.
not a great wide receiver.
Tyler Lockett, though, he's a rookie, correct?
True.
Yeah, he has great potential, and he could be a very dynamic, somebody like who is the like Kelvin or no, wow, now I'm blanking. Who is the wide receiver in Carolina?
That's Kelvin. Kelvin Benjamin?
Kelvin Benjamin. I want
Yep.
to say Kelvin Johnson. I'm like,
Nope.
it's not Megatron. Yeah, with Kelvin
It's
Benjamin.
Kelvin and Calvin.
Yeah, okay.
Calvin and yeah.
Gotcha.
There you go. Anyway.
English. But anyways, I think he has the potential to be a clear-cut number 1 stud on Seattle instead
True.
of just having a bunch of guys together that are named Doug Baldwin and I don't even know who else.
Oh, Doug. Yeah, I mean, looking at it from a perspective, too, if Seattle never makes it to a Super Bowl and never wins another Super Bowl in Russell Wilson's tenure, I mean, he's still a very good quarterback.
I think a lot of it depends on the numbers that he puts up during that time.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. All right, another guy, we talked about him, Cam Newton. I mean, he's only been in the league a handful of years, Sam, regardless of how much of a household name he might seem right now. He's never been to a Super Bowl. I don't know if this will be the first year I think he's made the playoffs.
Yeah, because
I
they
could be wrong.
They had like 3 wins last year.
Yeah, so
They were, what was it, like 3? Yeah, I don't remember. It was bad last year.
it was very bad last year. So aside from that, though, even assuming, let's just say hypothetically, Carolina doesn't make it to the Super Bowl. Cam Newton,
this year? Okay.
yeah, doesn't make it to the Super Bowl this year, and Cam, rattles off another 5 to 7 years. I feel like that's kind of like the shelf life for a lot of these 3 and 4 year quarterbacks right now.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you place Cam Newton's legacy in the NFL?
And again, I think he actually, I would say him more so than Russell Wilson or Andrew Luck has taken a pretty average group of wide receivers around him and made them very, very good.
I'd agree.
Yeah, with Devin Funchess and Ted Ginn Jr. Ted Ginn, if he ever remembers to catch the ball, he would be an awesome wide receiver. I mean, he can't just rely on 2 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns every week. And Funchess is just kind of being pressed into service because of Benjamin being out.
Yeah.
mean-
and I think this would be a very dynamic team if Calvin Benjamin was around.
Absolutely.
But the fact that they've been able to do so much with so little.
Yeah, I mean, so like the Packers fans need to stop saying that all of our problems would be solved if Jordy Nelson came back.
No.
Carolina can't say, hey, we'd be better without Calvin Benjamin. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, sure, you'd be fantastic if you have your number 1 receiver. Any team's going to be
Yeah.
better. But the fact of the matter is that they've decided to win 13 games without their best receiver.
And they're so balanced on all sides of the ball. They have a great special teams unit. Graham Gano as their kicker has been doing exceptionally well. A Luke Kuechly-led defense is scary. Very, very scary. They don't have They don't have the flash and flare of the Legion of Boom, and they don't have quite the shutdown quality of the secondary that Denver has. But just across the board, they're very solid on defense, and they force turnovers and they turn them into points.
I'd agree with you.
Again, on the flip side, Cam Newton, he can move the chains with his feet. He's developed into a very good pocket passer, and Jonathan Stewart does just enough on the ground game to keep defenses honest. I mean, I don't really see any flaws in Carolina right now.
I agree. No, I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head. I feel like if it would be anything, it would be the lack of big play receivers. I think Ginn and Funchess are doing everything that they can, but they don't have that guy that can really take the top off a defense. It's like, hey, Odell Beckham Jr., run down the sidelines for 40 yards and catch a deep post route. They don't have a guy on that team that can do that. If Benjamin's healthy, then absolutely, that's your guy.
They have that guy.
But right now, at this exact moment, not so much.
Not quite.
One other guy I'm curious to get your thoughts about is Teddy Bridgewater at Minnesota.
Ooh, all right.
So I know he's only been in the league 2 years now, but Teddy is a very interesting player, I think, overall. More so interesting than a guy like Derek Carr. I think we know what Derek Carr is going to do with his career. I think he's going to be a successful quarterback. If he stays in Oakland, I have a hard time getting behind him winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But
Derek Carr kind of, I would put like him and Blake Bortles kind of in the same boat.
I agree. But I think Jacksonville, more than Oakland, is taking the right steps.
Oh, yeah.
At least from an offensive perspective, to be more dynamic. I think Jacksonville still needs a better running back and a better offensive line.
Latavius Murray isn't a bad option, but he's just not quite the answer.
I agree. Oakland, I think, has got some good pieces, but they need the whole puzzle still to come together. So, but Teddy Bridgewater, though, I think is a very interesting person because so much of I feel like what he's going to do is going to revolve around how long Adrian Peterson's in Minnesota.
I mean, fortunately, unfortunately, yeah, his success is kind of directly tied to the health of Adrian Peterson.
It is. I mean, but we did see him step up in this last game against Arizona, and he threw for over 300 yards. Like, he actually was like, oh, I need to throw the ball. Sure.
He outthrew Carson Palmer.
He did. And
in Arizona.
Exactly, which does not happen very often. MV Palmer, as folks are calling him, like, you need to realize for a second that this is a second-year quarterback that doesn't know how to throw, that usually isn't used to throwing the ball for 200-plus yards usually a game.
No, I mean, it was nice, though, for Minnesota to see Mike Wallace step up and finally catch a touchdown pass. He is making a ton of money, and I've talked to several Minnesota Vikings fans, and a lot of them feel the same way about Mike Wallace, and that good wide receiver, but he has been a total bust in terms of the amount of money that they are paying him.
I agree. No, I completely agree. Same thing with Greg Jennings, too. When's the last time you heard anything about Greg Jennings down in Miami?
I watched him catch one pass when I was watching the Miami game the other night because I had, was invested in Lamar Miller a little bit, but all of a sudden, I was almost shocked. I totally forgot about it, and he ran like a quick out route slant and caught a pass for like 6 yards, and the guy's like, and a pass complete to Jennings for 6 yards. I'm like, Jennings? Greg Jennings?
I know that name. Was he relevant at one point and then
why?
left for too much money that he didn't deserve? I think so. So, yeah, I mean, Bridgewater as a whole, though, maybe we'll get a better understanding of who he is and his career legacy after Adrian Peterson is done, because I think Peterson maybe he's got another 4 to 6 years if he stays incredibly healthy.
Jeez, I mean, I think we won't see the real Teddy until AP is gone.
Because
until that point, AP will always carry the brunt of that offense.
I agree, 100%. Yeah, let us know your thoughts. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us at BG Sports Show, at Baxter Colburn, at Samuel_Wallace2. When we come back, Sam, you've got some semi-sad news, depending on how you want to view it and phrase it for Wisconsin Badger fans. We'll talk about that when we come back right after this. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm back.
And this is Sam.
All right, Sam, you've got some interesting news for us. It's national news at this point, although it broke last night, so some of you may not have heard it yet or been on the social media world. But it has been announced that longtime Wisconsin Badgers head coach Bo Ryan is retiring from the game of coaching and basketball effective immediately.
Effective immediately. Yep.
So, Sam, what do you have for us in regards to that, though?
It's interesting. It's interesting timing on his part, and I was a little confused at first when I first got the announcement on my phone last night. But then I actually sat down and I watched his about 9 to 10 minute press conference that he had after the Badgers beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi in a non-conference matchup up at the Kohl Center, in which the Badgers won 64-49, ending a 2-game in-state losing streak after they had lost to both UW Milwaukee and Marquette University as well. So the Badgers right now were sitting at 7-5, well 6-5 prior to the game last night, 7-5 after they beat Corpus Christi, and Bo was saying how this was the last game before kind of the final semester break that the team was going to have, so they got a couple weeks off now. But the interesting thing is he talked about, even back in April, he talked with pretty well-known athletic director Barry Alvarez, who used to coach the Wisconsin Badgers football team, was very successful. He talked to Barry back in April and said, hey, I just got this feeling, I think it might be time for me to walk away here pretty quick. And Barry sent him home and said, don't make the decision now. You should never make a decision immediately following a season, regardless of how it ends, if it's good or bad. He's like, go home, think about it, we'll talk later. And Bo's like, all right, sounds good. Takes it away. And then at that point, a lot of people had heard that Bo made an announcement that said this season was going to be his last season.
Yes, I remember that at the beginning of the season.
Yep, that was an okay announcement. I'm like, all right, it's never great when a coach does that before, because then there's always the talk about, well, how distracted is the team going to be throughout the year?
Exactly.
You've seen that in different sports as well, in NFL and baseball, things like that.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he came back and said, well, maybe it won't be my last year. We'll see. And I'm like, all right. At that point, I'll admit I was a little annoyed. I was like, Bo, come on, don't do this. Either go or stay. If you go, you have every right to go. No one has earned the right to leave and retire on a high note than you have, especially with what you've done in recent years and bringing Wisconsin onto the national stage. But if you're not going to go, then stay and don't tease the people. Don't be indecisive. Make up your mind and stick with it, and know that the fan base is going to be behind you no matter what.
Exactly.
However, what I didn't realize until last night, and now it makes a little bit more sense, and I still have the utmost respect for Bo Ryan, is his top assistant, Greg Gard.
Yep.
He's been the one who's kind of been the protege in line, and he's known, Greg has known in the last couple of years that he's been kind of being groomed for the head coaching position, that Bo's time was limited, and I think everybody within the Badgers organization knew that Greg Gard was eventually going to take over the reins. However, Bo had planned to do it potentially sooner than he did. He might have even retired at the end of last season after the national title loss against Duke, but Greg's dad, what I didn't realize, and apparently a lot of people didn't know either, his dad contracted cancer at some point during the offseason. Yeah.
Wow.
And Bo said, now is not the time for me to try to pass off these duties onto Greg when his family's going through this right now. He's like, that's why I wasn't sure, how long Greg's dad was going to live. He was flying all over the country, going to various cancer centers, and they weren't finding adequate treatment for him. And unfortunately, very sadly, thoughts and prayers to Greg Gard's family. His dad passed away fairly recently. And then Bo said, okay, not that now it's a good time, he said, but I wanted Greg to have closure with his family and bring that chapter of his life to a close before moving on with the head coaching change. And now, he said, it was just a matter of when do I do it? And he looked ahead at his schedule and he said, I wanted to get the kids ready. He said, I wanted to at least get them through the first part of the season, at least part of non-conference play. I wanted to hand Greg what I felt was going to be a competitive team. He's like, obviously we're very young. We have our own problems to fix and things to work on, he said, but we're going to give him a run at the job. And I want him to have the semester break that the kids now have, to have him get a couple weeks to get in there, to work with the kids, work with the program, and get his style implemented. And I just felt that this was an appropriate time for me to leave.
And you absolutely have to praise him for that, too. It's not like this is him chickening out saying, you know what, I'm done. We're 7-5 on the year.
Yep.
I just don't want to coach anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's nothing like that. He thought through this process, and the fact that he worked alongside Barry Alvarez and Greg Gard to really understand what makes the most sense for the program's future, I think was a very smart play for him. And there's been some backlash on social media, people reaching out saying, Bo Ryan, I'll never forgive you. You're just a chicken walking away from the game. You're not a real coach, blah, blah, blah. And I get that. People are probably upset. I mean, you take a guy who's won 747 games. I mean, he's won 19 championships. He's a very acclaimed coach, Sam.
Yeah, in his 14 years at Wisconsin, I know we said this before kind of a couple weeks ago in our preseason Badgers segment that we ran, but in his 14 years as Wisconsin's head coach, he has never finished lower than 4th in Big Ten play.
Mm-hmm.
He's never missed an NCAA tournament.
Where's he at right now in conference standings? Are they below 4?
No, in Big Ten play.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, they haven't started conference play yet.
Oh, well, then he's undefeated. He's fine.
No, yeah, I mean, he's never finished lower than 4th. He's never finished lower than 4th in Big Ten conference play. He's won several Big Ten titles. Obviously, as everyone knows, he's gone to the Final Four the last 2 years. He ended Kentucky's national run. So, yeah, he's had just a phenomenal run, and I think if anybody's earned the right to go out on a high note, it's Bo Ryan.
Absolutely. I mean, I was looking through the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel this morning, had a great article about him. I didn't realize that he went undefeated twice when he was the head coach of UW-Platteville.
Yeah, he won several D3 national titles with Platteville as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, he's a legend of the game, definitely one of the greatest to ever coach college basketball as well. And Badger fans, I'm sure, will be missing him, and I'm curious to see what Coach Greg Gard can do with the remainder of the year and if he earns himself a full-time job next year as well.
Absolutely, I hope he does.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up by talking about maybe some of the best current sports rivalries that you just might not know about. Sam and I are going to discuss a few of those, an article written by Bleacher Report that we'd like to discuss. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
All right, Sam, I'm not used to you being here in the last segment.
I can go.
I hope you stay, please.
No, I'll stay.
I'm tired of talking by myself or sometimes having to talk to Connor.
Oh, yeah.
No offense to Connor. I love him. He'll be on tomorrow if you're looking for your fitness tip of the week. Connor Christensen, our fitness tip and UFC expert, will be on the show tomorrow. All right, Sam, before we run, I want to look at something from Bleacher Report that they had a great article. They do these great list articles that come out, and one of the ones I want to bring up right now is the best current sports rivalries you might not know about.
Ooh, all right.
Some folks might know about these depending on the teams that they support, but I want to bring up a few of these, or just the rivalries as a whole. The first one that jumps out to me is the Miami Heat and Cleveland Cavaliers rivalry.
LeBron James.
LeBron James, no matter, and it all centers around LeBron James.
Oh, for sure.
None of this, aside from that, Cleveland and Miami have pretty much zero history, basically.
LeBron just was a kid who grew up in Ohio, decided to go win titles in Miami, and then came home.
I can't blame him for that, honestly.
I can't. And I hate it that I can't be upset at that, because if you think about it, it's a good story. Like,
it is.
20 years from now, ESPN's going to do this whole big
30 for 30 or whatever.
one of these big things, and they're going to have this whole segment on it. It's going to be like, there's going to be people that, you're going to choke up during. You're going to be like, man, it's a kid going home at the end of the day.
Man,
Come on, man.
Do you think he's going to ever win a championship in Cleveland?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
I think it's LeBron James. I think if anybody's going to win a title anywhere, it's going to be him.
That's true. I agree with you on that one. All right, next one here, Ole Miss and Alabama.
All right.
College football is spectacular. Ole Miss has beaten the Tide twice.
Beating the Tide Tice.
Beaten the Tide twice since Nick Saban was the head coach.
How long has Saban been there? I don't
He's
even know.
been there several years. I don't have an exact number in front of me. But
Chattanooga.
But if you are the Ole Miss Rebels, you have to feel pretty good about anytime you see Alabama on your schedule.
You know, it's probably like Tom Coughlin seeing the Patriots on the schedule. He's like, man,
we got this.
if anybody can beat these guys, I can.
Exactly.
So go Rebels.
No, yeah. I'm always, anytime it's an Ole Miss Alabama game, I'm always pulling hard for the Rebels.
Absolutely.
Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota as a rival.
Marcus Marr, huh?
Mariota.
Didn't Marcus just trash Winston in college?
That was very accurate, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Winston won the Heisman first, then Mariota won it second, but when they actually played each other, the one time they played each other in college, Mariota's Ducks were just savage to Winston's Seminoles.
Savage to the Indians?
Yeah.
All right. Can you say that?
Moving on.
All right.
Holly Holm versus Ronda Rousey.
Okay, come on.
People are reaching for this one. It just happened.
I'll say how many times has it happened?
Once.
All right.
Come on.
I got nothing.
Let's not reach for this one, folks. I mean, I understand it, and these are the best current sports rivalries you might not know about. Everybody and their mother's mother knows about this rivalry.
It's true. You know what? Pretty much, you know what? Never mind. I'll tell you later.
Okay. Carolina and Seattle.
Not seeing it.
It's an unlikely rivalry, at least this is what the Bleacher Report article is saying. They scored off 5 times. Okay.
I think it's another stretch simply because Carolina's kind of looking like Seattle a few years ago.
True. I'm going to have to call our golf expert on this next one, Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson, 2 up-and-coming golfers. That's all I really know about them. Spieth has kind of done massive work recently.
Go DJ, yeah.
I have to call Joe Wolfrath. The Clippers and Golden State, I'd agree with you on.
Sure.
I'd agree with that one. We've seen the Great Western Conference play that the Clippers and Golden State. I mean, they're also very close to each other. I mean, one's in Oakland, one's in LA, obviously, so they see each other a lot.
Yeah.
Fans are a little, torn because of that also, but I support that rivalry for sure. Is this going to load? Hold on 1 second. We'll see if it decides to load or not. Do you have any other ones, Sam, that might pop up in your mind?
I mean, after our fantasy football
rivalries?
season ends, it's probably going to be, the Naples Flash and the Cuban Raft rivalries.
Yeah, let's go. No, I mean, you're a better team than me. I don't have a running game.
On paper. Well, you have AP, though.
Yeah, I don't have a secondary running back, though. I think Alfred Blue is my...
Alfred Blue.
I had a dream the other night that I didn't start Alfred Blue the last 2 weeks, and he got 30 points both weeks.
That's a very specific dream.
I was like, what? No.
Like,
is this a sign that I need to start Alfred Blue this week? Because I might need to, just off of divine intervention. Well,
you probably should.
This last one isn't loading. But, I mean, you talk about overall rivalries. Obviously, Yankees, Red Sox, Packers, Bears, Packers, Seahawks, kind of. People want to make that more of a thing than it is.
Kind of just bred out of adversity. I mean, people were saying, Packers, 49ers, back in 2010, 2011, 2012. The Packers just kind of seem to jump around the NFC West. Watch it be like Packers-Rams coming up here or something. Like
No.
Was it Nick Foles now?
Yeah, Nicky Foles.
Nah, it's Case Keenum now.
Well, that's true. I forget what it was. Oh, I saw an interesting thing the other day. You know how NFL.com or NFL Network does their like promos for the Thursday night games?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm from blah, 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 and I'm from whoever, and you're taking on my team on Thursday Night Football. Well, they had Kurt Warner talking about the Cardinals side of it.
All right.
And they had some random worker on the new stadium talking about the Viking side of it. And Kurt Warner's like, look at, as my Cardinals take on, I'm like, Kurt, didn't you make your legacy at St. Louis?
Didn't you beat the Titans in a Super Bowl by like 1 inch?
Yeah, you won a Super Bowl title with the Rams.
Yeah.
And here he is on national TV saying, watch me and my Cardinals as they take on the Vikings.
Yeah.
I was like, Kurt Warner,
That'd
sir.
be like Brett Favre going up there and say, watch my Jets.
Yeah, watch my Vikings. I was like, no, sir. No. I'm like, sure, Arizona's being way more productive right now, but there's no reason for you to go on national TV and be like, my Cardinals.
Throw the Rams under the bus.
It's like, wow, if I was a St. Louis fan, I'd have been real mad about that.
Yeah.
I'm not a St. Louis fan, and I was still upset about that. I'm like, Kurt Warner, sir.
Being a football fan, like, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good come on, man segment right there. Like, come on, man. Like, Kurt, you're better than that. Seriously. So any other rivalries at all?
No, I got nothing.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for being here for the entire show.
Woohoo!
Tomorrow is our final show of the fall semester, and Sam's last with the show as well. But we won't talk about that right now.
Nope.
Stay tuned for more of great Sports Radio America programming here on sportsradioamerica.com. And also stay tuned for on our social media pages for upcoming scheduling for the remainder of the year. There'll be a handful of shows before the end of the year, but we don't even officially know what that will be yet. So thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. Remember, you can get us right here from 7 to 8 a.m. Central on Spreaker.com and usually on Periscope. Not this morning, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then you can get us from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time on SportsRadioAmerica.com and on demand on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, and on Podbean as well.
And you can always find us on social media at Facebook at The BG Sports Show, on Instagram at BG Sports Show, and as always, follow us on Twitter at BG Sports Show. He is at Baxter Colbert, and I am at Samuel_Wallace2.
For everybody here at the BG Sports Show, I've been Bax.
And this is Sam.
We'll see you tomorrow, folks.